term life insurance is always the best option. Wrong. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For today's installment of our quote series, we're going to address, once again, with much gusto and pleasure, a quote from Mr. Dave Ramsey when he said, term life insurance is always the best option. Now, again, also, I have much admiration for such a well-known businessman, real estate investor, best-selling author. Massive kudos, right? Now, when it comes to this particular issue, I would just simply say, let's consider that Mr. Ramsey is a businessman. What are business folks in business for? Okay. So with that being what it is, if we could recognize that. Now that's not to throw shade on anything that he might say. Okay. No doubt he's really great at what he does. On this particular point, my gut instinct is to recognize that blanket words like always, never, they're not always best to be used. See what I did there? Okay. What I'm saying is you've got to be really, really certain when you say something like that. And here's what I need to just throw out some prefacing disclaimers, I suppose. Term insurance can make sense. In fact, for those that are implementing the infinite banking concept or those that are vetting the infinite banking concept, it may be the case, although it's not preferable, to have a term insurance rider on a properly structured whole life policy with a mutual company that pays dividends. I said it, Dave. I said whole life. Still don't plan on going to hell for it. And and what that does, just in case you've never heard that, what adding a term rider onto a policy may do is it may just add the amount of coverage that somebody wants. Somebody may have a certain need of a particular amount of coverage, and term is a great way to be able to add more death benefit for a lower cost. Also, it may allow for greater amounts of premiums to the whole life policy because the overall death benefit is increased. So, and all that to keep a policy from turning into a mech, if you really want to get into the weeds, from turning into a modified endowment contract, which we don't want to have happen. But also, just a robustly built, properly structured policy does not necessarily have to have a term rider. And again, that's not even necessarily preferable, okay, to have a term rider onto a properly structured whole life policy with a mutual company that pays dividends. Yeah, I know. At this point, I'm just repeating that phrase just because I'm doing a rebuttal to something that Dave Ramsey has said about whole life. So I will probably try and work in the phrase whole life as often as I can through this whole video because that brings great exuberance to my life. Okay, so term life is always the best option. Throwing out always, throwing out never, words like that. I'm just saying maybe it's a slippery slope. But okay, let's address some things here. Again, Dave Ramsey, businessman in a particular business. I'm referencing an article from October 24th, 2022 that was reviewed by Jeff Zander. You may recognize that for the insurance company that Dave endorses. Jesse, insert that sound thing with the crickets. Do that here because that'll be good. Yep. Here, I'll pause for effect so you can. All right. Okay. So, okay. An article that he published from a company that he endorses by a guy that owns that company. Okay. All right. So, term life insurance, he says, for 10 to 12 times, I think it is, of your earning. I mean, how do you get to 10 to 12? I don't know. Why 10 as a minimum? Why 12 as a maximum? I don't know. What I'm here to promote in saying all of that is to say that I believe that you should become your own banker, or you certainly can. I believe that you can decide what amount of protection is adequate for you. And I believe that if you are willing to properly educate yourself, you don't have to rely on me. You don't have to rely on Dave Ramsey. You don't have to rely on anybody else to know what is going to be the appropriate product for you and the appropriate process to implement if you do so desire to become your own banker. So there are so many reasons why R. Nelson Nash, in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, lands on whole life insurance, properly structured whole life insurance with mutual companies that pays dividends as the ideal asset, the ideal entity to use for a privatized banking system. Okay. I've done I've done some other Dave Ramsey quotes. Feel free to look those up in our quotes series. I've done in our general episodes. I've done multiple videos on, why not buy term and invest the difference. Okay. So this isn't anything new that we're addressing. But again, while Dave is staying relevant and, he released that late 2022, I'm going to release, this because, people talk to me about these things. I see these things, and what I think pushes darkness away is light, not more darkness. Again, incredible, inspirational man and businessman and author and entrepreneur. Okay. But when it comes to life insurance, and I'm not trying to peg anything on me having my license. Okay. That's just a paper on the wall accomplished by, real rudimentary hoops being jumped. Okay. But it's there. And, I have this track record of having implemented the infinite banking concept for several years now. And my wife and I, we own multiple policies with multiple companies. So at least we practice what we preach. And I'm sure Dave does as well. But again, the things that I would point out here is, okay, why the hating on whole life? Just ask, are banks doing poorly, or are they doing okay? Seems like they're doing good. Maybe they know some things. Okay, who's the largest purchaser of whole life? It's banks. It's called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. What do companies do? What do the Fortune 100, 500 companies do? What do well-known colleges do? Do they buy whole life or term? They buy whole life. Okay, COLI, company-owned life insurance, for example. So there's no question that whole life, it's been around since before the automobile, and we're all driving automobiles. It's just, you can learn about it, okay? And again, if you've not read Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash, I encourage you to read that. If you've not read Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, you can read that. If you've not read How Privatized Banking Really Works, I encourage you to read that to know more about whole life, the banking function, and the infinite banking concept, and even have a bit of a broader scope of things because of economics and monetary policy. Okay, so I think I'll do another video soon because he said something else even after I'd written this down and had in mind to do this, where he actually mentions the words IBC. And, well, let's not get into that. This is this video. He said term life insurance is always the best option. There are lots of situations, even before you get to somebody wanting to implement infinite banking, where whole life certainly can make sense. See, there's something. I was on the phone recently with somebody who has a mentally retarded child, and they want to know that they can have permanent whole life. They want to be able to have whole life insurance and have that permanently in place for their eventual graduation. Right? Nobody's getting out of this alive. You may have heard me say it before. So, again, we like to focus on the channel. We like to focus on the process. We like to focus on banking. But again, the vehicle that we're using is properly structured whole life insurance with mutual companies that pay dividends. Did it again. And this lady was wanting to be able to get a whole life policy on herself so that she would know that there would be guaranteed death benefit. Not just coverage for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, okay? But guaranteed coverage for her son who's mentally retarded. So again, that's just one example, and there are plenty of others. even again, for the healthy individual that just decides as a consumer, hey, could I pay level premiums for the rest of my life? Level premiums that don't change. That same price. If I want to do that on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, it's not going to change. Not going to go up. Not going to go up. Never going to go up. It's level. I can always do that. And I'll always have certain other things. I'm actually going to have a guaranteed death benefit. I'm going to have a guaranteed right to a dividend if that company declares a dividend. That's always going to be mine if it's given. And these companies, they've done it for over 100 years straight, consecutive. And I'm going to have the right over my whole life to be able to apply that guarantee, that dividend to that guaranteed death benefit that I already have and increase that death benefit by more paid up additional insurance without any additional underwriting at that time. Meaning 50 years from now, regardless of my health, 50 years from now, I could still take that dividend and buy paid up additional insurance, even on a 50-year-older body. That's fantastic. And then because, all right, so that's a lot about the death benefit and everything, and about the input, the level premiums. I mean, are we not maybe going to experience a more taxed future, a more inflationary future? So to be able to lock in a price now that we choose, I mean, is there not value in that? Yes, there is. And then we can access capital, a growing compounding pool of capital over the whole course of our whole life. Did it again. See what I did there? Our whole life, we can access a growing compounding pool of capital. Guaranteed. What kind of a value can you put on those guarantees? Now, again, I know I've not even got into the infinite banking concept, but I've seen enough clips to have a feeling that at this point, it would seem to me that someone as intelligent and involved as Mr. Dave Ramsey is, that ignorance is not necessarily my first suspicion. I hope that he's ignorant on the subject of whole life and its characteristics. I hope that he's ignorant on the subject of infinite banking and that somehow he's never been exposed to the opportunity to read the infinite banking concept by R. Nelson Nash. I hope that is the case. My suspicion is that he has other business interests. And I know he's a self-purported consumer advocate, but he's in business. And again, anybody could tell me, Jesse, you're in business. Jesse, you sell whole life insurance. Jesse, you represent whole life insurance companies. Jesse, you promote this idea of the infinite banking concept. And that means that folks are buying policies. Yes. Yes, indeed. Unashamedly. And I practice what I preach. I personally own multiple policies with multiple companies. I personally implement the infinite banking concept as conceived and described by R. Nelson Nash. I've read these books. I walk this talk. Okay. I pay significant premiums. And what I'm promoting here is that you can become your own banker. And I encourage you to vet this concept. I encourage you to read Nash's works, to listen to his seminars, okay, to have a conversation if you would like. Dive in on this channel and learn what is whole life like as an asset. And what is this infinite banking process? Because term life insurance is a product. Whole life insurance is a product. What I promote more than anything else is the idea that you can become your own banker. And that's the process that you can just decide to implement. So I hope that that's encouraging us all to continue learning, to be careful in particular about our wording and how we say things. And yes, to do the best that we can for others. Because like Zig Ziglar would say, if you can help someone else get what they want, you can have everything in life that you want. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you'd like to have a conversation about how to implement the infinite banking concept, I look forward to having that conversation with you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. And this has been a great pleasure for me. Look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day. Take care. Term life insurance is always the best option.
Term life insurance is always the best option.
Doing money God and Grandma's way. Term life insurance is always the best option.
Dave Ramsey always sassing.
Term life insurance is always the best option. Dave Ramsey from RamseySolutions.com, October 24th, 2022, as reviewed by Jeff Zander, perhaps related to the insurance company that Dave Ramsey endorses. Anyway, nothing to see here.